Hello and welcome to the Film Angle. I'm Alex,
And I'm Kris.
and today we're doing something a little bit different. We both caught up with films, I would say. Maybe only a couple this weekend. We've been a little bit busy, but I would say we probably didn't have strong opinions on the films that we watched, and we thought that doesn't make for an interesting episode. Maybe let's do something
Yeah,
different. Let's try and tackle the news.
exactly. There's been a lot of interesting news in the world of film at the minute, but like you said, Alex, like there's a lot of movies that I've been watching, but either we haven't been watching them together, or we both, it would just be us telling each other the story of our experience watching the film, which again I agree is not very interesting for the listener. So. Yeah, let's have a little bit of a little bit of conversation. There's been some really interesting things in the news.
Definitely. And I think when we started the podcast, I think when we wrote our little description, we did say we were like movie reviews, movie news, and we haven't done any form of kind of
No,
movie news at all.
false
But
advertisement,
like
right?
not like we're just going to talk about like, oh, so and so's been cast in the new Marvel movie. Let's oh, is that cool? Is that not cool? Like I think we'll try and find like what's the thing to pull out of it. That's a
Yeah,
kind
we're
of
gonna get
discussion
real
or a debate.
pretentious about this, aren't
Yeah, but maybe some casting stuff, but
we?
we'll see. But yeah, there's been some interesting things happening in the world of the film industry recently, and how that kind of reflects society and the
Yeah.
future of film, and how we watch films, and how we advertise films and all that kind of stuff.
On a light-hearted note to start off with here, I'm sure everybody by now, even people who aren't really into movies, people who are just generally watching morning breakfast TV shows, are going to be hearing about the Gentle Minions craze that has been
Yeah,
going on at the moment. We've all seen the TikTok videos and all the videos on Twitter and all the sort of collective Gen Z experience that's going on, particularly with young men. I don't really see many young females kind of or just non-binary people kind of joining in on this thing. It seems to be exclusively a young guys club sort of thing going on at the moment.
that's very true. That's very true. I hadn't really thought of it in that way. But yeah, the idea is this kind of TikTok trend that's going around is these young guys, probably early teens, most of them, off to see the Minions Rise of Gru, all
Yeah.
dressed up in suits, in kind of formal attire. So that's why it's called the trend is called Gentle Minions. And yeah, it's kind of taken TikTok by a bit of a storm. Nobody's really 100% sure where like it's kind of originated from, but even it's Universal, right, who do Minions.
Yeah.
Um, Even they've kind of acknowledged the trend and kind of supported it in a way. And then over here in the UK, there's I think it was an Odeon Cinema, might have been in Bath near me, who kind of like banned anybody turning up in a suit to watch the Minions film from going.
So what is the suits thing about? I'm trying to like correlate that with Minions, because Minions, they wear the blue overalls. Is it like, I don't know, like I guess Gru, an older version of Gru wears suits, but I don't really. This is about young Gru and it's about Minions. I don't really get what the suit thing is about.
Well, I guess my kind of understanding is like we are seeing these early like young teenagers going, and they've grown up watching the Despicable Me films. They don't really hold any nostalgia for you and I
Yeah.
imagine. I think I've seen Despicable Me 1, and that's it. I don't think I've seen 2, and I've definitely not seen any of the Minions films.
Oh, really?
Um, yeah, they're supposed to be like okay though, aren't they? They're not supposed to be awful.
Yeah, I've seen the two Despicable Me movies, and I've seen the first Minions movie. I haven't seen Despicable Me 3, but they're fine. I mean, I know that collectively, like, seems like most adults love the Minions. I know, like, there's a lot of film critics who just love, who aren't so sniffy about it and just kind of relax into the thing of those sort of like early movies of Chaplin and sort of the comedy that leans into there. And there's a lot of fun to be had in that. Maybe the stories aren't really that interesting, but yeah, there's fun to be had there. I'm not a big Minions guy myself, but my partner certainly is. She loves the Minions, and I really like seeing her face light up whenever whenever she sees a gag on them. So yeah, I've got nothing against it.
No, 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 no. It's just I think for me, I see these guys doing it as a way of being like, we've grown up, but we still love these films, and let's almost kind of like make fun of how much more grown up we are. Going to see these films. So yeah, obviously something's happened. Something's kicked off this kind of trend, and yeah, people are getting involved. But I think obviously it's caused a little bit of disruption in at
Yeah.
least this one UK cinema. Reports of people throwing bananas, just generally causing mischief, and people even like bringing cigars into the cinema.
What? Like,
Yeah, have you not seen some of the kids walking around in their suits with cigars walking in to go watch the Minions?
you
I
see, like, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, initially, I'm pretty sure I agree with you that this was probably met with a really pure, earnest intention, a love out of the genre, out of the franchise. But I think subsequently, it's because it's trending on TikTok, and I think you get maybe younger people or other people are just ironically following it. Um,
mm,
which I don't want to tarnish a brush, but not very long ago, I was a teenager, so I kind of know what I would have been like, and I know my friends would have been like that sort of group of kids who would have went in to ironically step in on a kids movie and kind of not necessarily ruin it, but the contrast of that not the sort of movie they would usually turn up to see, and they're going to go see it and kind of maybe disrupt things a little bit. I think there probably is a little bit of that too.
yeah, definitely, definitely. I think it's probably any excuse sometimes to get away with a little bit of something.
And
It seems
do you think it sets a precedent like for the way movies are marketed? Do you think like Universal are going to like catch this on and like kind of do try to how do they utilize this going forward?
well. This is what I was going to talk to you about because it's almost too random at this stage to see where it kind of the memification of films correlates with ticket sales because Sony had a bit of a thing with Morbius not too long ago, and this was like post the film's release.
Sorry,
The
what movie? I haven't heard of it before.
Morbius, the living vampire.
Oh, I can't. I haven't heard of it. Is that like a Universal thing, monster thing? No,
It's a new Marvel legend come to
haven't heard of it.
life on the big. Oh, well, fair enough. Anyway, anyway, yeah. So obviously that got very memed, if that's a word. It got memed heavily, with lots of Morbin time kind of interesting stuff. Where even Jared Leto got involved with that by the end. I think that kind of ended the memification of Morbius when Jared Leto got involved. But you had all this kind of lots of
That
jokes
sounds
about it being
right.
the best film ever made, and how it's made like more money than any other film ever. And obviously that wasn't the case on either counts. It was critically panned and obviously wasn't making any money. But Sony jumped on the bandwagon of like everybody chatting about it online and making kind of comedy content out of it and re-released the film in cinemas to see if they
Yeah.
could catch some of that magic, and it just fell on their faces essentially because nobody turned up to see it. So it's kind of interesting here where there is a trend, a memification, if you will, of the Minions, and it is obviously bringing people into the cinema. So who can say at this moment how to even advertise to Gen Z and how to capture the magic that's happened with the minions and gentle minions and kind of how can you recreate that? I think this viral content it's so random in terms of how you go viral. I don't know if a studio is up for organically creating this kind of hype in this way.
No, and it would come across as very manufactured and artificial if they were to do so. I don't think it's creating a precedent. I agree with you. I think it's just an isolated anomaly of an event that's
Yeah,
happened, and it's a bit of fun. And yeah, I just hope that the little kiddies aren't getting their movie disrupted by teenage or
yeah,
post-adolescent teens. But if they're doing it peacefully and they're having fun, then why not? Like
yeah.
it's great. I like things like this. Like the Rocky Horror created its own sort of cult. I don't think this is on that sort of level, but it's fun to see things like that, and people get excited about cinema. And as long as people are going to support movies, I'm all for it. As long as it's done in a good way, and in a way that's not to disrupt. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, no, same. I completely agree. I completely agree. And I think like going back to how studios try and engage with this again, it's almost like not fun when they're self-aware. You know what I mean?
No,
Because
it's not cool.
it's not cool. It's not cool. I think it's funnier when it's a little bit more ironic, and maybe the the people or the studio that you're making fun of isn't in on the joke. Is kind of
Yeah,
the best way to be.
exactly. As soon as I saw the tweet from Universal, like, "Oh, we see you," I was sort of like, "Ugh."
That's ended the movement.
That's ended that. Yeah. So speaking about, I think if we keep on the trend of, we're talking about marketing in general now, and it's quite interesting. We've got the upcoming James Cameron's sequel to Avatar, Avatar: The Way of Water,
Mm.
and he has came out with a pretty interesting statement. It's not a response. I think he just literally came out with a statement, kind of a preamble, as he's already warming us up to the lifetime of Avatar sequel. It's going to be around 3 hours long at the moment. Anyway, he
At
knows what it's going
least,
to
I
be.
think.
Is it at least? Oh, I thought it was going to be like 3 hours, and then they'll probably take it down a notch.
Oh, I
Usually is the
see. I
way these things
see.
go. But
I,
you could
I,
be right.
I can imagine Cameron probably releasing something that's ridiculously long because we have waited a long time. Well, have we waited? It's been a long time since the Avatar sequels. I don't imagine anybody was waiting on bated breath for the film.
Yeah,
Maybe a couple years after the first one would have been a good time, but obviously there's still going to be a lot of excitement for it.
of
Uh,
course there is.
but of his kind of comments, which I think he said to like Empire, he said he was joking about like people complaining about it being a 3 hour long movie. He said the
Yeah,
agonizingly long 3 hour movie. It's like give me a break. I've watched my kids sit and do 5 1 hour episodes in a row. And then he said, "Here's the big social paradigm shift that has to happen. It's okay to get up and go pee," which I kind of agree with. Like, I know I prefer to just have a good hour 30, hour 40 film. Maybe if it's a Marvel blockbuster, like give me 2 hours.
yeah.
I find the 2.5 hours into three sometimes a little bit more painful, and it's not because I can't binge them or anything like that. Like I can binge TV shows more easily than you can films, but I think when you're in a cinema, it's the getting there, it's the getting back, and then it's the fact that I'm an older man now. I'm not super
Obviously,
old.
you're not old. You're in your 20s. For goodness sake.
I'm in my late 20s, and I've definitely
All right.
seen in some
Okay.
of the last films which are like 2.5 hour long. I do struggle. I need to pee sometimes,
Oh no!
and
Always do the pee right before the trailers start.
I
Always do it.
do.
Empty myself out, and then I drink. I don't. But do you like guzzle your drink down in a
No, no,
cinema? Like
no,
I'm.
no.
I'm a sipper.
I'm a sipper too. I'm a sipper too. And in fact, like I remember for Avengers Endgame, I was like full on training myself for the week, like how to like go for long periods of time without weeing and also keeping myself hydrated. I was like adamant I wasn't going to go for a break during that film, but I did have to take a pee break during Dune, and I did have to go for a pee break during
Oh
Spider-Man No Way
no!
Home, and I was very upset that I did this. And there was another film recently where I remember I sat to the end, but I was absolutely desperate. And
Wow.
it's just like, do you know what we should bring back? We should bring back intermissions. I like intermissions.
Um, you need to probably go see a doctor. If you went before you go see it, like I'm known for having a terrible bladder. I haven't went to pee during a movie, and I go to the cinema probably once a week. I haven't went to pee for years during a movie. I really rare that I have to, but
I mean, it's not all the time. It's just, I think, I'm a big coffee drinker, so that probably doesn't help.
oh,
Um,
coffee, yeah, like that does tend to accelerate everything.
So yeah, I don't know what it is. I found it more recently as well when I go to like gigs and concerts and stuff, especially when you have a couple of beers, and beers really accelerate the
So now
waterworks.
everybody listening knows exactly how Alex's digestive system works.
Yeah,
Something as a little greasy bonus for you.
if anybody's got any advice, any tips,
There's this really good website that gives you pelvic muscle exercise program that you can follow.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm with you here though. Like, that's very interesting. What he says, like, yeah, of course. Like I've seen nephews and nieces sit there and watch, hour-long programs one after another, and they go next, next, next. But is it because how it's delivered to us? Is it like how it's packaged? That's probably the difference. Where it's, if you're getting things in a bite-sized way, that seems to be a human thing, that we seem to digest things better that way. It's the same whenever you're in school and you're studying and things are broken up. You seem to be able to take it in a little bit more. We seem to like go into things. If it's a lot to chew, we seem to reject it. For me, when it comes to film, you can't have too much of a good thing. I think if it works and if it warrants it, I'm
Yeah.
there. And yeah, absolutely. But I don't know, James Cameron though, his movies. I don't know if they're more, thought provoking enough or well written enough to sort of warrant those running times. I mean, it's definitely nice to sit in such a wonderfully well realized world as Pandora is, and that's kind of the joy of watching a big bloated movie like that. But yeah, it serves pleasures for sure. But I'm really looking forward to this movie. To be honest, it's a big jump. I mean, what's it been like 13 years since it was 2009? I think the first
Yeah.
Avatar movie
Yeah.
was, and yeah, and it really set a precedent for how far you could take technology. And obviously, it's 2 decades later, and technology has changed so much even since then. And you say what you want about Cameron, he is a pioneer of that sort of craft,
Mm.
and I'm really excited to see what he's done with this. I mean, I've been looking at the screenshots that came out in Empire magazine the last week, and like the hair and everything, like you can see the amount of detail they've put into this. Um, yeah, I'm looking forward to it just for the surface pleasure of it, and I don't think
Yeah.
there's many movies I can say that for.
Yeah. It's kind of like you're looking forward to the spectacle, and 3 hours worth of spectacle will probably be good. There's no doubt about it. I think there's
Yeah,
nothing about the story that's making me go, I can't wait to see these characters back again together after so long, or like I can't wait to see what happens next. And obviously, they haven't given much away about what the story is anyway. I'm
yeah.
intrigued to see what the story is, but at the end of the day, it probably is just a showcase for like just how kind of beautifully realized this world is now, and how far the technology's jumped. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I'll definitely be going to the cinema to see that, and yeah, looking forward to seeing it on the big screen.
The sad thing is for me is that we don't have James Horner doing the score this time, and obviously
Mm.
that's like one of the really memorable things about kind of actually a lot of James Cameron's movies. I think James Horner scored majority of all the big ones, Avatar included, and obviously he passed away in 2015 when he was when he died in a was it a plane
It
crash?
was a plane crash. Yeah,
Yeah, so a great talent loss. So they have big shoes to fill there in terms of what they're going to do with the score. So I'll be very interested to see what happens there.
definitely, definitely. Talking of big shoes to fill, I saw another article which kind of caught my eye on Empire again, and it was about Michael Mann's Heat 2, which is the sequel to Heat, but it's coming out in
Yeah,
book form. And have you seen Heat, Chris?
yeah, that was like a regular movie for me and my dad. Um, Definitely when I was growing up in school, it was always like once or twice a year he put on Heat and we'd watch it, and it was just I love that movie. It's one of those
Mm.
sort of ones that kind of got me into movies. Probably one of the best films of the '90s. Yeah, so I'm a big fan. I don't think we ever. That's one of the when you take the phrase "I never knew we needed the sequel." Definitely applies to this.
Yeah, so and obviously we're not getting the film version of it, though Michael Mann has very much said that like it's intended to be a film, like potentially he would
Okay,
make the sequel, which is interesting because at the moment I don't think I've heard him say that. Like I think it was very much like it's just coming out. I've written the book, which is the sequel, and that's it. But yeah, it's he said that he wouldn't be able to make it to, like, he'd only make it as a film, not as a TV show or anything like that, because that seems to be a way a lot of these kind of prestige things go these days. They just get turned into 9 episodes of something else
Yeah,
and put
yeah.
on HBO, which you could probably see Heat going that way. But he's saying no. If I was to make it, it'd have to be a film. But he said he wouldn't have Robert De Niro or Al Pacino back because they're too old. And I guess maybe the film is set. Sorry, the book is set maybe not so long after the events of the original film. And he said he would have to
Okay.
recast. So I was kind of thinking, like, who would you even get to recast? And would you maybe trust the technology more and go the Scorsese route of just de-aging these guys?
No, it doesn't fit, does it? I mean,
No.
you can get away with the gangster stuff because most of it is purely like conversational and that Scorsese thing where it's a bit more about the internal family dynamics of things, where Heat is just more a straight up like, thriller
Action.
blockbuster slash action movie, and you see in these guys doing that sort of thing again would cheapen the product. I don't think that would work at all.
Do you have any like people in mind to even take on these roles? Like, who would you cast as a?
I think
Well,
you gotta
it's not
like,
even like the characters were that young in the original, so it's
yeah.
it's it's kind of
If
like
someone was to make the movie, I would definitely say to make the movie. I think a Christopher Nolan type of filmmaker would work really
mm,
well. Someone because Heat is one of those movies that's like very grounded and very it's showy when it needs to be and very conversational whenever it has to be as well. So I think you have someone like Christopher Nolan making something like that with with people like Robert Pattinson or you're Ryan. You can see like people like that, or Ryan Gosling or something. Someone who can really you can play mannered performances, very straight guys. Um, I can see playing those sort of things, but again, let's just make new things. It's fun as a book form. That's really good for the fans to really involve themselves in. But he is such an icon of a film, and it's been so long of a time. I don't think it really warrants it, and I don't think it would really do that well box office wise too. I think it's too much of a cult.
I agree. I agree. I like Heat. I only actually watched it last year for the first time, but I was
Oh
really
well,
blown away by just
lucky you.
how well developed a story and interesting kind of uh, grounded action in it and stuff like that. I was a big fan, and obviously De Niro and Al Pacino just together
Yeah,
again, like facing off against each other in this really kind of interesting cat and mouse, but we're kind of on the same page. Kind
yeah.
of dynamic and relationship is brilliant. Will you be reading the book?
I probably I like to say yes. I mean, there's nothing turning me off it, but there's so many books out there, Alex, that I really have above that I will probably never get to read in my life too. So probably no.
Ah, fair enough. Fair enough. I thought maybe
What
maybe
about
you'd
you?
you'd be on it. I think I don't think I'm going to rush out and buy the book, but it piques my interest to see a director novelize the sequel of a film in that kind of way. Would be I think that would be really interesting. It makes me wonder what kind of story it's going to be that a novel was the way forward for Michael Mann.
Yeah, I would just like to see him making movies again because he's the type of filmmaker I really like. He's got those really '90s blockbuster sensibilities, like Last of the Mohegans, and I even quite like his biopic sort of movies like Ali. But he hasn't made it's Black Hat, the last one he made, like 2015. Like that's quite a while. I know he's done some work on the new Ansel Elgort project, Tokyo Vice, is it?
Oh yes, yeah. Something. It's a series or something, isn't it?
Yeah, Tokyo Vice. Apparently, that's being well received. But yeah, I would like to see him making movies again. And he's kind of going like the route that Tarantino always said that he was going to go with, like making books and everything. So that's quite interesting.
Fair enough. Anyway, you mentioned Ryan Gosling. Have you seen any of the Barbie set photos that have kind of
I
been
mean,
leaked
how
or?
can you can't run away fast enough from those photos. I mean, as soon as you go on my as soon as I go on my phone anytime, all I see is Gosling in denim or in roller skates with Margot Robbie. It's all that's on the internet at the minute.
I think they made a good choice of kind of releasing some official photos of Margot Robbie as Barbie and Ryan Gosling as Ken early on, to kind of knowing that filming out, it looks like it's outside in LA somewhere on one of the beaches.
Oh,
Um,
100%.
that
Yeah,
that
like
people
Venice
would
Beach or
be
something.
seeing them all together and stuff like that. But it kind of like, do you want to see these pictures? I know it's the Barbie film. It's not exactly the next Star Wars film. So in terms of spoilers, is there any kind of fear of being spoiled? But it is a Greta Gerwig film, and you and I are both massive fans of Greta
Yeah.
Gerwig. And I think, obviously, casting wise, they've got an insane cast with
Yes.
Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie. Obviously, they've also got Simu Liu, Ncuti Gatwa. Um, who else? There's loads. There's loads. The other girl
Yeah.
from Sex Education's in it, who looks exactly like Margot Robbie. Like,
Yes. Yes.
they've got a pretty insane cast ready to go, and obviously directed by Greta Gerwig. It's
Yeah.
pretty
Written
cool.
by her husband Noah Baumbach as well. He we're also big fans of.
Yeah, Will Ferrell's in it. One of my favorite kind of comedy stars of like ever. Um, and I just think, yeah, I can't wait for this film. But how happy are you seeing photos from it? Is it up your excitement, or does
It was initially exciting, but I'm worried about like oversaturation because the photos that are now subsequently coming out are like non-official release photos. But I think it's cool, but the movie hasn't even got a release date yet. So like I don't I'm worried about oversaturation and kind of being overly exposed to this sort of material before the movie comes out, and then end up ultimately be annoyed by it by the time it releases, and I that would be a shame. But I think we're still not in the know-how of what this movie's going to be, so I'm pretty interested in that. Again, it's a flipping Greta Gerwig movie, for goodness sake. It's
yeah?
going to have some sort of pedigree or something interesting going on with it, and I don't know. Our general audience is going to like this.
I think they
Is it
will.
going to transcend everybody?
I've got a feeling it's going to. Like, I never thought that I would be excited for a Barbie movie. Like, had Greta Gerwig not been involved, had the cast they've got not been involved, would you be there opening day for a Greta Gerwig film? It's opening on the same day as a new Christopher Nolan film, and right now I'm thinking I'm probably going to go see Barbie first. You know,
Yeah, 100%.
you know what I mean?
It's looking that way at the minute. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean,
I think they've
yeah,
got that thing of like, they've got an IP that a lot of people know it. So like, there's already a general audience that's set ready to go watch this film just because it's Barbie, and that's
yeah,
interesting. On top of that, you've got like some pretty big A-list names. You know, Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling playing the parts of Barbie and Ken, and then you've got this interesting thing of like, oh, Greta Gerwig's directing. She's writing it with her husband Noah Baumbach. That brings in the film world, or the film nerds, should I say, like you
yeah.
and me, who are like, what? That's such an
It's so
interesting kind
it's
of,
so in contrast to how grounded their material usually is.
yes. And it's just interesting. Like, this is Greta Gerwig's third director project, and I think it's gonna be really interesting to see what she, like, why she decided to take on this one as the third one in her kind of in her career. So yeah, really interested to see this one, and yeah, like I said, I'll be going to see Barbie opening day, baby.
Bring the boys to Barbie.
Yeah. Everybody dressed up in suits for Barbie, right? should we
Yeah,
start? Should we start a trend now?
it should be just denim, double
Yeah,
denim.
double denim for Barbie, baby.
Right. Okay. We were going to maybe you should introduce Madam Web, Alex, because that's a bit more your wheelhouse.
Well, I maybe
Um.
wanted to introduce Madam Web, and I think it's difficult to not kind of touch the same points that we have discussed with Morbius. I know you're pretending not to
Yeah.
know that film earlier, but
I'm sorry.
it's
What?
you. Shut up, Chris. You know Morbius.
Morby who?
we chatted about Morbius a few weeks ago. I know you
Okay.
haven't seen the film, but
Oh,
you are
okay.
aware of
It's
the
gone out of my
news.
mind already.
So obviously Sony are kind of like scraping the barrel with their Spider-Man characters, trying to do something with them because obviously they are a little bit hands off on the main Spider-Man films because Disney and Marvel Studios have kind of taken creative reign of those with a little bit of their input due to their
Yeah.
deal. But they continue to want to do stuff with other characters within the Spider-Man lore because Spider-Man's got like a massive cast of supporting characters, villains, all that kind of stuff that make for interesting stories. But I guess the biggest problem is like they're not doing any of these stories with Spider-Man, and you kind of need him to kind of make it a little bit more interesting. Anyway, so they've
Yeah.
decided to or they're at least they're in the post-production side. They haven't started filming yet, but they're filming very soon because I think it's due to come out next year. Is Madam Web, which is a pretty a semi-obscure character, maybe not to those who watched the '90s cartoon, but she kind of controls. Well, she's able to
And
like
she was,
move through the Spider Verse. She kind of brings the Spider Verse together. Um, she's like a clairvoyant. It's an interesting character. She was actually voiced by Stanley's wife in the '90s cartoon,
yeah. And
but
wasn't
she's
she
like
quite like an elderly character
yeah, she's like an old lady
and
in
and
a
stayed very
wheelchair.
stationary?
Yeah, she's old, she's blind, and she has some kind of chronic neuromuscular disease. So
Sounds
it's
like a blockbuster hit.
well, exactly. And they've cast Dakota Johnson to play Madam Web, or at least we assume Madam Web. So maybe they're going down a younger route.
Yeah,
And
they're
I
gonna do
can't
something
imagine they're
with it.
going to go down the blind old lady who can't move route. But it's interesting because obviously they've cast some really interesting people. They've cast Dakota Johnson, who I think we both really like
Yeah,
her
big fans
stuff.
of.
They've cast Sydney Sweeney, who's a really kind of up and coming, probably
Yeah.
about to be like massive star after her kind of stuff in Euphoria
Emma Roberts is in there too.
and then Emma Roberts already is a pretty big name in herself, and kind of has a massive fan base, and it just makes me think like, are we wasting like talent on this film? Because is it going to be any better than the kind of Venom and Morbius films that Sony have already put out there, which are these like half-hearted efforts at superhero films that feel really
Yeah,
dated due to their kind of like early naughty sensibilities and stuff like that. I just feel
very
really bad
much so. Yeah.
because Dakota Johnson, Sydney Sweeney, and Emma Roberts all deserve a better film than this.
It
Like,
seems like a really big risk, doesn't it? I mean, you got S.J. Clarkson. She's not really like a household name at the minute. She's directed a lot of superhero TV shows. Is this the first her first feature length film?
yeah, I believe so.
And also, like you got, I mean, big cinema nerds and everything, or anyone who's generally a fan of film will know names like Dakota Johnson. But I don't necessarily know if the mass audiences are going to really like line up to see a Dakota Johnson led movie, and also with more, Morbius should have been a lesson for that, surely. Venom was different because that's an IP that's associated with something as mammoth as Spider-Man, and we and Tom Hardy was such a big star as well. So they got away with that on that occasion, but I don't know if it'll work this time.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I just, again, it falls down that route of like, who's this movie for? And for me,
Yeah,
as a massive
or if they got
Spider-Man
something
film,
special, they might have something special, and we
they
just
might, they might. If there is a rumor going round, and this is very much a rumor that actually it's not a Madam Web film, and it's something else in the disguise of a Madam Web film that they're not ready to kind of tell us yet. Um, but like
right, but it
even
will still
then,
be called Madam Web.
I don't know. I don't know. The rumor doesn't go any further than that. Apparently, it's been hinted
Okay.
at by Variety or Hollywood Reporter that it's potentially not everything it appears to be. So whether that means we're looking at like a Black Cat movie, who's a side character in Spider-Man, but she's very much like Catwoman in a way, or we're looking at
Yeah,
a Spider-Woman movie, but I'm pretty sure Olivia Wilde's signed on to direct a Spider-Woman movie for Sony in the future. So
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe Silver Sable, but she's not a very interesting character at the end of the day to bring in mass audiences to a blockbuster. So who knows? But again, it's just like I'm a Spider-Man fan. This isn't piquing my interest. So like,
Oh, really?
who are you making this for, people? Who are you making this for?
Yeah. And if they struggle to get people like you on board, then that's a problem.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we'll wait and see. Like the cast is better than Morbius, whose kind of only standout cast member there was Matt Smith. At least here, I'm very interested in Dakota Johnson and Emma Roberts, and really interested to see Sydney Sweeney play a more
Hmm.
kind of different role for her potentially. Who knows what they're going to get her to do? But I imagine it's a little bit more family fare than Euphoria.
Yeah. And I can't see them just making Dakota Johnson sit in a glorified throne and with a blindfold on. They're going to do something like completely different with this character, if at all.
Or maybe that's why she signed on, because she was like, I just have to sit there and say lines.
Yeah, it's
Well,
easy
yeah,
paycheck.
yeah. I mean, the paycheck will get me a house, and yeah, easy enough. That's a easy 6 months of of my life.
Oh man, I think also we can kind of discuss because obviously we are going to be reviewing Thor: Love and Thunder, and it kind of leads me into this sort of conversation that I think is worth having now. And obviously, the reviews that came out for Thor: Love and Thunder as we speak, and it's sort of like sort of mixed to positive.
Mm.
And are we really saying that like we are just kind of at the apex of what this franchise is capable of, or are we now seeing a point now where we're on a downward spiral where everybody is going to be kind of right? We've had enough of this. You used to be in favor. We aren't really going to be turning up in droves as we used to be.
I think that's an interesting point, and I think you're probably right that we're at some kind of point where it's. I think from Marvel in this past year or two, there's been a lot of quantity over quality.
Okay.
Um, so we're getting like a new show pretty much every month. You're getting 4 films a year, and I would say like Doctor Strange, Black Widow, and potentially Thor are very much
Yeah.
like middle of the road films. They're kind of like doing well enough to not create enough bad buzz, but they're not as special as they used to be. And maybe if they weren't coming out with so much other superhero content going on at the moment, maybe they would be more favorably reviewed. Who knows? But I think we're just looking at a point where, like, even I am a little bit tired of the amount of
Yeah.
Marvel stuff coming out right now. And I mean, it's my own fault because I'm suckered in and I have to watch these things because in my brain I'm like, I don't want to miss out. I don't want to miss out.
You're
Um,
hardwired, aren't you?
and I'm happy I'm watching some of these things because some of them are interesting. Like Ms. Marvel on Disney Plus right now is absolutely brilliant and really
Yeah.
really fun and reminds me of like why I fell in love with Spider-Man comics. But then you're getting a
Uh,
lot of other things. Like I would even like argue like Moon Knight a little bit started off promising and then just fell down like the superhero rabbit hole of like you fight this person, you fight
yes.
this person, end of the world stakes, all that kind of stuff, and that's just getting a bit boring now. And I want to go in and enjoy Thor, and I'm sure there'll be enough to enjoy. But I do wonder if there's a little bit of fatigue.
Yeah, is this a Disney conversation we're having now, where they're like, they know that they need to do something a bit more interesting. They start off with a really interesting concept, and they just never have the vigor or the tenacity to double down and see it through to the end. Always waves off at the end and ends up becoming an unsatisfying product that everybody doesn't like.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right. I think maybe it is a Disney issue, and maybe it is a Marvel issue because obviously they are the big A star kind of
Yeah, and
product of
obviously
superhero stuff.
the big overarching story that was you know the story surrounding the Infinity Stones and Thanos came to an end, and then you gotta kind of, I mean, I haven't got the in-depth knowledge of the comics like you do, Alex, but as certainly as a general viewer, it kind of felt like, right, okay, what do we do next? And what you do is you go do standalone movies, and you kind of take a step back. So I think that's what it feels like at the minute. You're kind of going back, like phase two style Marvel movies again.
Mm. I agree, and I think people have said that obviously the lack of an overarching thing is an issue. I don't wouldn't see it as much of an issue if the standalone films didn't feel so
Uh-huh.
inconsequential at times, because at the end of the
Yeah,
day I would prefer it to be more of a standalone thing and be like an artistic vision of and a character study and
certainly. Yeah,
stuff like that. And but yeah, they just feel a little bit inconsequential, and I'm just, yeah, there's always got to be cameos, and that's all anybody rates anything on now, is like the amount of cameos and the amount of like things that link to other things, and that's starting to bore me a little bit. And obviously, it's infiltrating other franchises that weren't like that, like Star Wars, which we've obviously chatted about. But yeah, I mean,
yeah.
in terms of
Be
superhero
interesting to see if
stuff,
we're. It'd be
it,
interesting to see if we're still on. We're still talking the same way next week.
yeah,
After we've seen Thor: Love and Thunder, because I'm looking forward to it because we're living. It's hard. I don't think it's news to anybody that we are living in super dark times at the minute, and these are the sort of movies I'm actually really looking forward to. You know, going in the weekend, just chilling out and relaxing to something that I don't necessarily have to think too hard about, and just something that's really, spectacle driven and a little bit of humor. So I'm going in with, high expectations just for a pure enjoyment
yeah.
value. So that's what I want out of this experience.
Yeah, I think I just want better quality escapism, and
Yeah,
maybe just a little bit of a break in between these films, because and the TV shows, because there's less excitement. I remember being like so excited for the Avengers and stuff like that, and because you actually had to wait for the next Marvel thing,
yeah,
the next piece of content. But that being said, I just want to say, like, in terms of superhero content, there's still other stuff other than Marvel that's really interesting right now. Like The Boys on Amazon Prime, like, is probably
yeah.
one of the most exciting TV shows I've seen in a long time, and is the only TV show that gets me really excited week by week, waiting to watch it, because they still are releasing weekly, and that
Yeah,
turns all the superhero stuff on its head in a really interesting way that feels really kind of refreshing and self-aware, but in a good way.
and it
So
also
so there's
interrogates that Disney model in a way, doesn't it?
oh, 100%, 100%.
Mm.
It does a lot of really, really good stuff, and kind of speaks to our times, and kind of like shines a light on, like, if superheroes were really here, like, they'd probably be owned by, pharmacy companies, and like
Yeah,
branded to the high heavens, and all this kind
yeah,
of
and
ridiculous stuff.
they're all not necessarily all very good people. They're normal people with flaws as
Oh yeah,
well.
oh yeah. I mean, and the main character in that show is Homelander, who's the kind of Superman
Scariest
of world.
person who ever lived.
Terrifying. Honestly, I mean, like it's rarely a character like scares me anymore. Being an
Yeah,
adult, like as a kid,
I
I used
remember,
to have it a lot, but
especially during season two. Anytime anybody ever got into an elevator with Homelander, I was like, I want to say like clenching my seat or whatever I was, whatever I was at the moment. I was like absolutely, absolutely bricking myself, thinking like this person's gonna die. This guy's a psychopath.
he's, oh man, so good, so good. Honestly, one of the best characters on TV in a long time, just for
It's
sheer
that performance, isn't
fear
it? It's like,
and
yeah,
just charisma, in terms of like you just want to keep watching him be evil, but at the same time he scares the shit out of you. Are you
yeah.
caught up on season three?
No, no. I mean, I was actually hoping you wouldn't ask a question just so that I could seem like I wasn't embarrassing for a second. No, I've watched season one. I've watched season two. Really love both of them. I'm going to catch up with season three sometime this month.
Oh, you're gonna
definitely.
love it. You're gonna love it.
But we're so much TV to watch at the minute. There's so
Yeah.
many movies, so much TV. We are absolutely spoiled. In terms of that, it's a good time to be alive. But oh my goodness, it's just like homework at the minute, isn't it?
I get it. I get it. I would definitely say push the boys up a little bit because season 3 is potentially, like, at the time of recording, the final episode hasn't aired, but right
Right.
now it's like pretty much my favorite season of this show, and
Wow,
it's done some really
that's
interesting
saying
stuff.
something.
Yeah, season 1 was incredible, so season 3 is like on par, if not slightly better.
Wow. Okay. Big words. Okay. Well, I'll be catching up with that. I've got that and Stranger Things to catch up with, and I know
Yeah, I
that's a big
still haven't
mammoth. I'll
finished
be sitting
Stranger
to.
Things yet. I'm one episode away, but again, it's finding a night to put the 2.5 hour final episode in.
Absolutely, man.
Stranger Things the movie.
Okay, guys. So hopefully, you didn't mind us ranting and raving and talking nonsense for for a good 45 minutes about just catching up on some general news going on at the minute. There's some definitely interesting things happening, and especially as we move into the second portion of the year, which has some really exciting things in store for us. I think you'd agree, Alex. But
Mm.
yeah, next week we'll obviously be talking about Thor: Love and Thunder, which is a movie that we're cautiously excited about, and hopefully we are in the positive camp for that, and we'll let you know next week. Please make sure to tune in. But for now, this has been the Film Angle. Make sure to listen to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anywhere you get your podcasts from, as well as like and subscribe to us on our Instagram page at the Film Angle. Leave us a nice juicy comment. We'd like to know that you guys are interacting with us and listening to our material, and it really helps us know that we are on the right track and we're doing the right things to make sure that the show is really entertaining for you guys listening. But as said, my name's Chris.
And I'm Alex.
Goodbye, guys.